Welcome to the Cocoa Recovery Podcast.
Recovery Podcast presents the conversations of an informal group of friends gathered over coffee to discuss their current experience in recovery. The simple purpose of this podcast is to be helpful by sharing the realities of people living in recovery. The hosts and guests may or may not be practicing members of 12-step programs. The Cocoa Recovery Podcast is not affiliated with any organization, institution, or facility, neither endorses nor opposes any causes or approaches to recovery and rehabilitation. Whatever is expressed in the podcast represents our individual experiences and opinions as of today. Welcome to the Cocoa Recovery Podcast, and we are your hosts.
I'm Pirate Mike.
I'm Barbie.
And I'm Carbs. Welcome to our eighth
Yes, eighth episode.
And
Woohoo!
for tonight, we have a guest speaker, and our topic is, do I have to be doing the steps in every situation I find myself in? And here, I'm going to introduce our guest. This is Maggie. Say hi, Maggie.
Hi guys, good evening.
Good evening.
Thank you
How
for
are you?
having me.
Yes,
Carbs,
thank
Barbie,
you.
and Pirate Mike. So glad to be here
Yes.
tonight. So I
Great to
wasn't
see you.
sure if you're going to be asking questions, if I should just go barge into the topic or what.
There we go. Like the first question that I expressed in the topic is, how is it that we're supposed to be doing the steps in every, I wouldn't say big situation, but in any situation that calls for a reaction? How about that? Because
Well, we do our steps regularly. For example, the 10th step, and that's, I do mine in the daytime. Okay, so you can do it in the evening before you go to sleep. By doing that, and the 11th step, which is to get in touch with your higher power, with God, it's actually preparing you for those situations that you'll be encountering in the day. Now, so that your reaction will be mitigated by that spiritual homework that you've done. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So
it's
that
like,
your reactions may still be there, but it won't be as intense. It's not like, I want to strangle that person. It'll be like, let me think about what I'm going to do now, and you'll be in a better position to come up with solutions instead of getting caught up in the emotions, because you're already prepared, whether you've done your 10th and 11th in the evening or in the morning. Because in the big book, it does talk about in one of the recovery programs that we ask, in the 11th step, you can ask for directions and how to encounter your day. That's part of the 11th step, is that you anticipate what your activities are. And if some of them are overwhelming to you, you can ask ahead of time for the guidance and solutions for those situations, and also the peace of mind, the level-headedness to deal with them. That's what I do.
yeah,
It helps
that's a
me.
good one. It's like a preventive. So for our listeners, just to clarify, so step 10 is continue to take personal inventory, and when you're wrong, admit to it. So like basically I practice the 10th step, like what you said, like when you go before going to bed. Would you say, Maggie, that it's more about like reviewing, like before going to sleep, and in your prayers you ask your higher power, is there anything that I did today that I'm not aware about? Did I hurt someone? Did I,
Yes.
did I cause someone harm? Is there someone I need to apologize to? Right?
Yes.
Yeah. So
Yes.
what else do you think could I ask my higher power, like when I'm
Well,
practicing the 10th step at night?
I'll share about how I do it in the daytime. Mine is actually based on Ignatian spirituality. So for those of you who attended Ateneo, you're trained in that already. But anyways, it basically is an examining of conscience. That's what they call it in Ignatian spirituality. So I start off by praising God, and then acknowledging that how much He loves me, because that was a game changer for me, is realizing how much God loves me, how much my higher power loves me. I am so important to Him. And yes, there could be billions of people in this world, but that's how powerful He is. He can zero in on every single person and give them personal time. That's how powerful He is. I don't care about all the other people. I'm not jealous that He cares the same way for other people. But what's important is that He really cares about me and wants the best for me. So that lays the foundation for moving on to the next part, which is I ask for the grace to open my eyes and recognize the gifts that He granted me throughout the day, from morning till night. And when I do that, I actually see so many gifts, and the gratitude is just natural. It comes forth from that. So I say, oh my gosh, even small things like, oh, I ran into this lady in the palenque and I had really good interaction with her. And, I smiled at her, she smiled at me. I mean, even small things like that, right? Or the beautiful sunset. Or I'm so grateful that my husband and I get along and he's also in the program. Or I'm grateful that I have you guys to see on Saturdays, right? So
Yeah.
or that my clients didn't act out. So that, and then the next part, I ask for the grace to reveal to me how God was present in the day through my feelings, my thoughts, events. And that helps me become aware of God's movement throughout the day and how He's been talking to me. And it opens my eyes. Now I have to ask for the grace because I do not have the ability to recognize these things or to have the gratitude. I'm very self-centered and I always want more. and I have a very long like wish list of things. And when I ask for the grace to see His gifts, then it's no longer about me. It's more about, wow, thank you, Lord, you've done this. So the part about asking for the grace to recognize His movement and His presence, that's also a major eye opener because it keeps me connected to God. And I recognize, oh my gosh, you were with me throughout the day. So for example, I've been dealing with some pretty heavy duty family stuff, family of origin, major brokenness. But you know what? I'm surprised that I didn't blow up. My cousins were all losing hope because there's this one like troublemaker who's been acting out for decades and continues to act out. And I'm there and I'm almost like I'm the cheerleader. I'm like, you guys don't lose hope, Wag kayong mawala ng pag-asa. Don't think about the negative person. We'll focus on the solution. It's like, wow. Sometimes I step back and I go, wow, that is amazing, because that's the step. Those are the steps in action. Those are the fruits. Those are the fruits of the steps that I'm able to have that positive outlook. I thank the Lord. And then I ask for a scripture that speaks to me specifically to my situation. So and that review of the day also shows me where I've gone wrong. I ask to open my eyes to how I was disobedient, or if you want to call it sin, or you want to call it, you injured someone or whatever, that I ask for that and for the forgiveness. And then to point me to scripture that will feed me, like bullseye target, will speak to me specifically, and it's no fail. I always get something on a daily basis. And that like empowers me throughout the day, or it gives me the strength to face whatever challenge that I have. And then the final thing that I do is I think about what's on my schedule. And then if something stresses me out, then I bring it up to the Lord. Like, okay, I have this coming up. I don't know how to deal with this. Can you help me? And then part of that too is asking for the scripture that will empower me to face this scary situation, which is usually just scary in my head. So I'll share with you things that scare me here in the Philippines is dealing with bureaucracy, red tape, like in banks and BIR. It's like SSS crap. It's like the other day, like yesterday, my secretary, she wanted me to sign these forms, and like immediately I shut down. I was like, no, let's talk to the accountant about that. I don't want to deal with that. The SSS. It's like, I had to like sign something, and banks. Oh my gosh, try to do banking when you're a corporation. That's so friggin' scary, right? And so once again, they didn't accept our application. I kind of lost a little bit earlier because that wasn't part of my meditation today. I wasn't prepared, right? It came out from left field, but
Oh, I hate that. Yeah.
yeah, it came up. I wasn't prepared. It came out from left field. So
Here, how did you deal with that? How was that?
well,
what was-
I'm gonna deal with that tomorrow in my morning meditation, right? No, I apologize. I actually apologized to the banker. I said, and that's actually the preparation that I did in the morning. So it helped me to like recognize I was wrong. I apologized and I said, you know what? I realized you did not make up the policy. You're just doing your job. I'm sorry that I raised my voice at you. I said in Tagalog, But again, that's the program working, right? It's
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
that was grace operating. Because without grace, I would feel totally justified in scolding the bankers, right? How dare you make up these, how dare you waste my time, blah, 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 right? But I was like, oh, I know it's probably Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas who's doing this, right? Dictating all these policies, and we're powerless. So yeah, that's an example of how I deal with the upcoming day. And there are days like when I have to file stuff with SEC and do Security and Exchange Commission, all these like yearly forms, right? I'm like, I have to pray. I'm like, Lord, I need some scripture here that will help me because I have PTSD about
No,
government
it's true. I
compliance.
don't blame you. I don't blame you at all.
bad here.
And then when I do it, it's like, oh wow, then there's no feelings. It's like objective. I can do it. Objective. No head tripping, no heavy emotions. So those are major wins, benefits, having to being able to go through these things without taking a pill, a drug, or engaging in any kind of numbing activity that's ultimately
Yeah.
self-destructive.
Yeah. Like a few days ago, like one of my triggers really is fighting with family members. One thing that means so much to me during my recovery is I am able to make amends with my family, and my relationships with them are slowly being restored. So my sister and I, it's been a while, because I've been very mindful of it because I already know my triggers. So I try to avoid, family drama. I try not to get too angry. But just a few days ago, I was in the mall I think I was in Uniqlo, and I was just, I wasn't prepared. I wasn't prepared for this conversation about my grandmother, my Lola's care because she has cancer. And my sister got on the phone. She called me while I was, I was with my daughter and everything, and I wasn't prepared. I guess I didn't, to be honest, I didn't pray that morning. So I was just, and she was yelling at me because she was disagreeing with me about how we're supposed to take care of her. She has a different, she has different values, obviously. And I didn't agree with her. And I could feel, my anger start rising. I could feel both of our voices started getting louder and louder. And then all of a sudden, I snapped out of it. I was just like, wait.
Right.
And I caught myself, and that never happens. That never happens. I was like, oh my God. Just when it was about to explode, I was like, no. I was like, no, calm down. And I was like, I told my sister, I was like, you know what? It's really up to you. If you want, you can talk to Lola, discuss her choices with her. If this is how you feel about it, let's just agree to disagree. And I was able to stop myself. And I said, but you know what? I have to go. I have to go, because sometimes you just, you can't tell the other person, by the way, my program says, you can't, I wanted to tell her, it's like, you know why I'm going? Because my program says that this is what I need to do. And then it's, then it's just not from the heart, and it's like that. But I really wanted to say that if you just had a program, then you wouldn't be yelling at me right now. But then since I'm the one with the program, I was able to leave the conversation. And I said, is my peace and my recovery more important than being right? And
that's good.
Yeah. And then that's when I was like able to put down the phone, and I was like, okay. And then nothing.
That's great.
it was
Yeah.
amazing. And I was like, did I practice one of the steps?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good
It
question.
sounds like
I have a
it sounds like the
question.
ninth step, like a promise. We will suddenly
Oh,
realize that God is doing for us what we could not do for ourselves.
woo, yes.
You see, like I have a question about that. Like okay, like when you deal with family or like you have these discussions about situations and stuff like that. Of course, it's yeah. I've done that. Like with my mother earlier, we were talking about other family members, and it was. Of course, the conversation is heated, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then like you see her like
Well,
her eyes are just like but then like it's about other people, so I was able to kind of like, mom, no. But then when she's attacking, for example, if I'm being attacked, my character is being attacked, I have this need to defend myself, and sometimes I will. It's an angry defense, and how are the steps relevant to that? If I'm defending myself angrily because like somebody's attacking my character, that's where it gets iffy for me, because like I'm always like, step back, take yourself out of the situation. But it's like sometimes it's just really hard, because like when I turn my, for example, like if I turn my back and say like I'm gonna leave the conversation, it's either I'm rude or I'm bastos for doing that, and then I just add fuel to the fire, because like it's just the thing that I guess Filipinos are. You don't exit a conversation when you're angry. You finish it.
well,
And
but you
you
do
know
though. No, but cars, but you do. And I think like for me, part of the challenge that I had was in looking at it exactly the way that you phrased it. I don't have to stay in that space today. And Maggie, you talked about like the ninth step promise, and there's something in that, like right around that part of the big book of AA, right? It starts off with like, if we are painstaking about this phase of our development, we will be amazed before we are halfway through.
Mhm.
And then further on, it says our whole attitude and outlook upon life has changed. And both of those things happened to me, not necessarily when I was working through the steps the first time, but eventually when I was in enough pain that I wanted to change and I was willing to let go of things like my attitude towards my parents and my family. I was able to adopt like a different point of view and perspective on it. And then when I had that experience, then we go into later on where it talks about the start of the 10th step, where it says our next function is to grow in understanding and effectiveness. So I needed to have some kind of experience. I needed to have the experience and then be aware of the spiritual awakening that I was experiencing in order to get the motivation to grow in understanding and effectiveness, because it was so humbling. I was instantly filled with so much gratitude. And something that Maggie said like earlier on when she was talking about it, just the breadth and capacity of God's love. I've been so humbled when I see how this person, like say today, that I got into an argument with and I think is wrong and just a bad person. That person is interacting with me because they're there. And that means that God loves them just as much as they love me.
Yeah.
At one, like however good of a person I think I am today, I needed that grace and that mercy at one point. And now that I think I'm all high and mighty and sober and I've done this and that, and this person just is a moral prick, God loves that person just as much, and there's a reason for that. And it doesn't happen overnight. And I guess so the question, Maggie, is like, do you remember the moment when it got that way for you, where you had that experience? Was it something like when you were working the steps the first time, were you somebody who had the experience fairly quickly and then just spent time building on that? Or did you spend some time like me in uncomfortable sobriety before something else happened and you had that moment? What was that like for you?
So the question is, when did I start realizing that the promises were happening? Something like that, or what?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Well, for me, like most people, what got me motivated to do the steps the way I share it with sponsees and friends, I had to be in a lot of pain.
Mm.
Like
Mm.
major indescribable. I mean, My favorite way of describing the pain was indescribable pain. I had no words to describe the depth of pain that I experienced. I mean, there's just no words, the emotions. I'll get poetic. It's kind of like the tears, but they weren't physical tears, but the sorrow that I felt. If you were to fill the ocean, if the ocean were filled with all the teardrops, that was like how much pain and sorrow I had. How poetic, huh? I read that from a book. Anyway, it was like that.
I love
There was
that.
so much sorrow. And
Yeah.
that the motivation for doing the written 10 step, that was it, because I had no desire to drink, and I know drinking was not an option. I toyed with the idea of suicide, but I knew deep down inside it was the wrong thing to do. So I was left with nothing but the steps. That's why I surrendered to them. Now I started to feel slowly relief, but it wasn't major, but it did relieve some the mental the mental obsession over problems, right? I would mentally obsess, and my emotions were like just so intense, like everything. I was a very intense person. I realized for my sponsor, that's just like typical alcoholic profile. I didn't know that, right? And that's the beauty of reading. That was the beauty of reading my steps regularly to an experienced woman who had been sober a very long time. At the time, she was already like 30 plus years sober when I was reading my inventory to her. And then the things that I thought were like, oh my gosh, la 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 la, you're like big deals are like, oh yeah, that's just alcoholic. That's how we are. We're very dramatic people. We feel more than the average person. We can cry over sunset. The normal person's like, oh yeah, that's a nice sunset. It's like, oh my gosh, did you see the sunset? Right? That's how I am. But when I'm in La Union, I'm always like, wait a minute, it's sunset time. I drop everything and take pictures of the sunset, right? So to get back to this, the game changer for me is when I realized that major miracles were happening was when I had this I call it the deep conversion experience. I became a Christian, like a real Christian, and my higher power switched from God to the God the creator of the stars and the galaxies, to Jesus, the Son of God. That was a game changer for me. And that's when, and it wasn't like the Jesus that I knew from Catholic school. It wasn't like that. This one was totally different.
Yeah.
I mean, things happened that was beyond my understanding. I didn't even know that I was having major paradigm shifts. And that continued to happen, and it continues to happen to this day. I continue to change, like God continues to change my paradigms. It's like they're being cleansed and replaced with truths to this day. It's a never ending journey. It's like I've been doing ballet ever since I was like 18, right? And I learned early on that in art, for example, like ballet, you never reach perfection. There's no such thing as perfection.
Yeah.
We're not perfect. Yeah. So that's art. And the same thing with the spiritual life. There is no perfection until I die and I'm with Jesus, with the Lord. So I'm always, as long as I stay in this program, there's continuous improvement. There's only two ways to go. Either I continuously improve or degrade. That's it. So to get back to Mike's question, is I recognize on a daily basis when I do my examen of conscience, you can call it that. That's Ignatian language. Or when I do my 10th and 11th, I recognize how much I see all these miracles on a daily basis. There's small miracles. Sometimes they're big miracles, but there's always, I see God's movement. My spiritual eyes get open. So that's the change that I have today. And it's just like really exciting because every day there's like excitement in my spirit. It's new. There's I don't know how to describe it, but the what I see today with my spiritual eyes and the gifts and the miracles, it's so much more than the highs that I had using the artificial highs that I got from doing shrooms. I love mushrooms. I feel like psychedelic experiences, right? Mike knows this. I used to go to San Gabriel Mountains, right, and shroom there, and I just like trip out in nature, and I'd like
Those are
play
good
with
mountains.
these twigs, and they go shh. And I'd look at the stars, and it felt like the dome was falling down on me. But the natural highs that I have today far exceed any hallucinogenics or opium that I've taken.
Oh,
So I
yeah.
hope that answered your question. Yeah.
Yeah. And, I hear a lot of people like over years, right? Something that I just heard people say in the rooms is adopting an attitude of gratitude. But as you were sharing your response, I think that for me, it's like this, and I can see it like this attitude of surrender, which is something that I have today and I didn't have before. But then I did get to a moment kind of the way that Maggie described where, and it's, I mean, to say that like I didn't have anything but the steps. There were a lot of times when I felt outraged, like I don't want to do a fucking 10 step on this, but it kind of came to that, it kind of came to that moment where I was just it's indescribable pain.
Yes.
And then it just became
Yes.
very clear to me that like, I can't hold on to this way of looking at it anymore. I have to take a leap of faith. And it was only when I was willing to surrender self again, that things started to shift.
Pirate Mike, I have a question with what you mentioned a while ago about when you were having those conversations with your mother, right? And how did you detach with love in that situation?
With love.
Then I kept it very arm's length. I let weeks go by. Those boundaries became easier over time. I can choose today whether or not I'm going to respond, but I don't respond if I think that it's going to hurt me in some way.
Yeah.
So yeah, I didn't even recognize the codependency in it at all. I didn't, and I was very full of guilt and then some shame about like the way that I was, but ultimately it feels so much healthier today.
That's great. Yeah, because a lot of I was just discussing this with my girlfriends about how the Filipino culture, how we're never supposed to be like, we shouldn't detach from our families, like it's like Filipino families, no matter,
Yeah.
if you're getting abused or especially your parents, tell you, call you names and all of that, you're only supposed to bow your head and just say okay, okay, okay. But where do you draw the line? It's like, I'm also trying to teach my daughter the same thing because I can see how she's a fighter, when it comes to situation when she feels threatened by someone, it's either fight or flight, right? Some people they fight right away. There's some people run away from the situation. I'm trying to teach her how to be assertive. So with the steps, how can I teach my daughter to be assertive but with love? Like what could she say, or like with you, Mike, like
It is always fight or flight if I'm thinking that way, but then the reality is it doesn't have to be. Right. And what you were saying about the Filipino culture, actually, Maggie, I complimented her last week because of something she said. Basically, Maggie, you were talking about like not carrying more than you have the capacity. That resonated so much for me because something that I'm going through with like currently with my family. I just don't want to be a part of it because I don't have the capacity to do that. I mean, I still have some grief that I'm processing in some other areas. And today, that's okay. I would have been falling all over myself with guilt like not too long ago. Like, why don't I feel something? Am I a sociopath or just overthink? But when Maggie said that in the meeting, I was like, no, I just don't have the capacity to carry this, and it should be okay, and it will be for me.
I think a lot of you guys and all of our listeners know that I am quite in a difficult situation with my family here, only because like we're so close to each other that there's really no place to run if I have to. I mean, like I'm glad I moved out, and people remind me, and like Maggie would say, like would tell me, at least now you have a real place to run to. That's when I realized that okay, I can take myself out of situations that are, how do I say it, like extremely, just extremely bullshit in my opinion. Like, why am I here, right? It's like, what am I doing here? Like sometimes I would question, like, why am I here again? the situations that happen to me, it's face to face. It's not
Mm.
like
It's not on the phone.
where I can just like, oh,
I gotta go, right?
You know what I want to buy? I want to buy those flip phones again. Like, oh, that would be awesome if I could find one, and I'd be like,
No, the
see,
best
I
is with the
think I have
dial
one,
tone. So you can
right?
slam the
have a
phone.
landline. I do. I have a landline. Awesome, right? But I don't have that. Well, I more often than not, I'm in a situation where I talk to people face to face, and sometimes there's just no time for me to be like, God, I don't know what I want, but can you just get rid of this person? Take him. Like that's my prayer.
Take him.
Take
Sa'yo na,
this
Lord.
person away. Like that's just the prayer that comes into my mind. Like I know I don't mean it, but in a situation like that, and then I go like, I'm sorry I said that, but you know, I do that, and then it's just that's what I'm trying to get at. Like I can feel my skin on fire.
Mhm.
Mm-hmm. You
That's
see
like,
red.
that literally. I feel like I'm having a like. Oh my god, I have a fever. It's like that,
Yeah.
and then I would have people tell me like my brother would be like, "You're the one with the program."
Ah,
That
What?
sucks. That
That's-
sucks.
that's
You
lovely.
know, my
Yeah.
sister did that to me too. They're like, I thought,
Ah.
yeah. She's like, isn't it in your program you're supposed to let go?
That's awesome.
Oh no!
Yeah,
Let go.
I'm
Let
the one
let
with
go,
the program.
Barbie.
That's
Let
right,
go.
I'm
I'm
the
like,
one with the program.
I should have never told her. You know?
You know what I'm saying? It's like no, just because I have a program, it doesn't mean that you can do this to me because I'm just not gonna take it sitting down.
Yes,
Mhm,
that's what I was
mhm.
trying to find out. Like, where
Yeah.
do you draw the line? So, Maggie, my
Yeah.
question for you, like, exactly like Pirate Mike and I were able to get out of the conversation because we were on the phone. You know, we could just say goodbye. We're
yeah.
doing something. Oh, I gotta go. You know, I'm in a store. But what if you're backed into a corner, like physically? You know, this person is attacking you.
You know
Even like,
what?
yeah, what do you do?
Well, I had to learn the hard way. Okay. I'm like a trendsetter in the family now. Imagine in the Philippines, Philippine culture. I mean, I grew up in the States and my cousins, they were here all their lives, right? In the province, even. So imagine that much more traditional. I had to cut ties. It was that bad.
Mm.
When the person is super toxic, I had to go no contact. They followed suit. They actually followed, and that totally goes against culture. I've
Yes.
learned in my new program of life that it's principles before culture. Just like how
Oh,
principles before personalities,
Wow.
it's
Yeah.
principles before culture.
that's
That's a
amazing.
good
yeah.
one.
That is so good.
That is
Yeah.
a good one.
There's no other
Yeah.
way.
Great one.
No,
I mean, if they're
no.
dead set, right? If the other person you're facing is dead set on like bringing the toxicity to you, there really is no other
Yes.
way.
Yes. So that means walking away and then no contact. I had to implement that. And like I said, my cousins who lived here all their lives in General Trias, Cavite, they followed suit. Some of them followed suit.
Maggie, the
Program.
trailblazer of
I didn't do
Cavite.
it.
Program now.
I know, right?
Caviteños.
Caviteña, all like friggin', yeah. Principles before culture. No, they don't.
Okay, that's what I'm going to tell my family when I'm back. Principles before culture. Get away from me.
Oh my gosh. Imagine the Sunday lunch. Principles of our culture.
Those are the
Can't
only
sit with
two.
me.
Those are the only two choices, though. I mean, I heard somebody say something similar. You know, it's you accept or you change. What are you able to do?
I had to acknowledge that I have a family member who's like a psychopath, seriously. According to the formal definition.
Hmm.
Okay, I'm not using the word loosely. And it was very difficult for me to acknowledge that and to come to terms with it. But when I finally did, when I acknowledged that as fact, then I adjusted myself accordingly. Like, oh, well, really shouldn't engage with psychopaths, regardless of my relationship. I need to get away because it's dangerous, right?
Yeah.
And it just became objective. It was when I acknowledged it, No more denial, no more like, oh my gosh, how embarrassing. It's like, no, it's like a bath. So stay away, really far away, no contact.
It sounds
It was just
simple,
easy.
but
But
you
it's
know,
hard.
carbs, like straight up, I'll say, like these are the most heartbreaking decisions that I've had to make.
It is. It was. It was. And
But
it was to me, it was so heartbreaking. I needed outside help. I needed
mm,
I needed to see a psychiatrist, psychologist, and I needed God provided a support group for me.
Yes.
Another support group of women and another program. I had to go to another program that helped me in terms of getting in touch with my boundary issues, my
mm,
codependency issues.
That's
But it's the
amazing.
same 12
Amazing.
steps. Same 12
Yeah.
steps.
it
Yeah,
is
amazing.
the foundation, I think, like, because you know, some other people, friends in recovery, they've talked about that, right? Like different fellowships. And I can't speak for their experience, but I'll say that for me, like the recovery experience that I found in AEA specifically put me in a better position to take care of other things. So now I can
Yes.
look at my codependency with different eyes. Now I can look at my fantasy addiction with like different eyes. I can look at all these other
Mm-hmm.
parts of self in a way that I wouldn't have been able to before when I was, you know, not well. So it's not the answer to, like, well, AA specifically, I'll say, like, it has not been the answer for everything, but it's put me in a better
Mm-hmm.
position to look at things from a more objective. You know, we talked, one of our side conversations was about like mental health, right? And
Yeah.
I'm not saying that you have the spiritual experience and you're happy, joyous, and free in the definition you apply to it, but it is possible for you to live a fulfilling life because you'll be able to look at things kind of like the way that Maggie said, you know, it's, I have this condition. I have to take care of it. And now I can live life.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Like
Yeah.
for me, it's like I was diagnosed as bipolar too, and it was really, really difficult for me to accept that, to the point that I got off my meds, and
Mm.
it was the worst decision ever, you know. So I really, I went cray, you know, and even though I was doing the steps, you know, what I learned is that you need all of it. You know, like it can't be just the psychiatrist and the meds. It's not going to fix your life.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Mm-hmm.
at the same time, if you do have a medical condition, don't be afraid to follow your doctor. If your
Right.
doctor says, take your medication, so maybe you won't spiral and turn into, you know, basement material, you know. But you know, yeah. So definitely this program has helped me in every single way, you know, mentally. So my meds I feel like my meds are working better because of this program. You know, I've
Right
become a
on.
more sane person,
Mm.
more patient, not perfect. I'll never be perfect, you know, but I am experiencing the ninth step promises, you know, like even though
Yeah.
I'm saying that my sister tends to like fight with me and everything, but you know, even after that whole, you know, sort of like disagreement we had, you know, she never really texts me anything kind, but all of a sudden, just like a day after, because I was like, oh, I wonder if she's mad at me, she shared with me a picture of pulpo. I'm not sure if you're familiar with pulpo. She's in Spain right now, and pulpo is this grilled octopus, and she knows that it's my favorite dish. And she was like, you know what? I'm eating pulpo right now, and I just thought of you. And I was like,
Aw.
oh, you know, it's like
Aw.
I found that to be like a miracle. It's like she never does that. You know, she's never sweet to me. She's sweet to everyone else, but she's never sweet to me. But I found that so sweet. And then
Aw.
my grandmother, this was just today, I sent her a bunch of hopya. You know, it's her favorite, you know, and I had it delivered to her. And she's also not like a very like lovey-dovey person, but she called me today and then she said, thank you for the hopya. I love you. And I was like, oh my God. And you know, she's sick, she has cancer, and I'm just like,
Mm.
I really, it's only really my higher power that made this possible. Only this program.
Yeah.
You know, I don't know which step is what, you know, but all I know, it's working somehow, you know, and yeah, just I'm really, really grateful.
Yeah.
I
I
just
love
wanted to
that.
add that
I
it
feel like
takes
now, I'm just like, Are the promises coming true? Yes, they are, guys. Come on. Okay, I'm not
Carbs.
they are, okay. I'm just like, there are just certain situations, there's a certain, things that are just more prominent sometimes
Mm.
and I fail to see that, the little things sometimes. But I am grateful. I'm very grateful because, I mean, I can get up every day. Yeah, and my meds are working. Like some reason, no, because like there was a time I was trying to adjust. I'm on my meds, and it was only I think last month that I'm able to sleep well,
Oh,
Oh.
wow.
and I've been taking
Wow.
it for a year.
Jeez.
Ooh.
Yeah. So I don't know. Maybe this is because like maybe my mind's more quiet.
Yes. Yes.
You're able to
It's because like
surrender,
my
I
emotions
guess.
are a little bit more in control, a little bit,
Mm-hmm.
and
Yeah.
it doesn't take much for me to fall asleep anymore.
Yeah.
And it's yeah, I think it's yeah, I have to say it's got to do with God and this program, my recovery, and yeah, the steps because like sometimes I know sometimes I'm not aware, but I know somehow I'm applying whatever principle I've learned or the tools that I've gained. And even though sometimes the outcome is not favorable, I always come to terms with the fact that this is what was supposed to happen.
Yeah.
Like for example, I was supposed to be called a name for me to realize that, oh, maybe she's hurting.
Mm.
Mm.
That took a lot. That took a lot,
Yeah.
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Or like like other people projecting anger towards me. It's like, oh, because like they can't project their anger to that person that they're really angry at.
Yeah.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes people are grieving. That's
Yeah.
another thing. They're
Yeah,
grieving.
it takes a lot. It takes a lot because like, there's still a part of me that says like, don't take it sitting down. You're sober now, and they can't they people can't just like see you as a doormat or somebody who
Mm.
can like absorb these things just because like they helped you through it.
Yeah.
Like they helped me get sober, they helped me, they helped me with my life. No, yes, I said thank you. It doesn't mean I owe you my life. That's the that you get there's a difference there. That's the boundary that I'm trying to set. It's like
Mm.
I am I am sober, and because people helped me, and I will never forget that. But that doesn't mean I am beholden to those people that helped.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
No.
Mm-hmm.
It's true.
It only means that I'm gonna get better every day. And like if the situation calls for it, I will defend myself. Yes, I will defend my children to a certain degree, right?
Yeah.
You mean, I'm still learning. I'm baby in recovery. God, I'm just 20. I'll be 22 months tomorrow.
Yay.
Yeah.
Ooh, coming up on 2. Oh my gosh.
Right?
My
That's so
gosh.
amazing.
That was
I
fast.
can't believe, yeah, that was fast.
It was
Yes, I just
fast.
wanted to add real quickly that it takes time. All of the whatever
Mm.
wisdom I have, it took years. So be patient with yourselves. It takes
Mhm.
time.
Yeah, yeah, and like,
That is good news.
and
I
like,
needed to hear
good
that.
news. No, because Maggie has what, 40 years? Do you have 40, 30?
Yeah.
Yeah.
40
Yes,
So
years.
that is
don't compare
amazing.
yourselves to the wisdom, whatever wisdom God gave me. It took years. It took lots of pain. It took lots of mistakes. Clean already. Like friggin' 10
Mm.
years, I'm having another bottom, So
Right.
it's just sort of like
Oh,
it's like a what do you call that? It's a spiral upward, not a
Yeah.
spiral downward. And then, the imagery of the onions being peeled is like it's a process. We don't get
Yeah,
we didn't get sick overnight, so we don't get well overnight
Mm.
either.
it's
okay.
true.
I just have a tiny question. If you bottom again while you're in recovery, do you do the whole 12 steps again? I mean, like, is that even
Oh,
like,
that's a good
I
question.
mean, every day, carbs. Every day. Like
Every
if
day,
I'm
regardless.
troubled to like by something that happened today, like it all has to live in. So actually what you said, I was having a conversation with somebody else recently about the steps, right? And you know, in the AA book, it says something like we have to remember our real reliance is upon God. And so what Maggie talked about, you know, the perspective took time for me. There was a lot of time that I spent like focusing on the steps, the actual work. And so my friend said, you know, a good reminder is like, think about it as the steps are the ticket to the show. They are not the show.
Mm.
If I'm
Yes.
disturbed today,
Yes.
it's not like I have to do the step. Why am I going into the steps? Because the show that I'm trying to get to is peace of mind, is recovery.
Yes.
Because
That's
God is
It's a
going to
tool.
work the miracle. It's the tool. It's
It's
not
just a tool.
right. Like, do I need to do a 10-step inventory? Not for the sake of the inventory, but because I want to be
Mhm.
released from this trouble that I'm in right now.
Yes. Yes.
I like that. I've never thought of it that way. And that is why we have this episode.
I remember Maggie telling me like the steps and meetings are not gonna they're not gonna keep you
Right.
secure. You know, it's the work that you put in. It's
Yeah.
how you know, how you apply it, how you know, and I was just like, holy shit.
The
Yeah, they
steps will
need to
keep you
be
sober.
applied. They
The
need to be
steps will keep you
applied.
sober. Not reading them, but doing
Not
them.
reading them. Yeah.
Reading
Yeah.
them. It's like it's not enough that you go to like yeah, because like we do encounter people who are just like, I'm gonna go to a meeting. Like, are you doing your steps? Steps are not for me. Well, then we're gonna continue to be in misery, aren't we? Yeah, there are people like that. And it's like, yeah, I think it goes hand in hand. You gotta do. I mean, like everything goes with each other. Like you know, it's the steps, it's the meetings, it's the fellowship.
And there has to be change.
There
Like
has
when
to
you
be
follow the steps, there has to be change. If there's no change, then you're not doing the steps. You're not really doing the steps.
You're not really doing the steps. If I'm just
You're not
writing it down.
actively. Yeah, writing is different from action.
No, but even
Yeah.
writing with what intent? If it's just to put words on paper, but I'm not really, to your point, Barbie, like if I'm not trying to do it to recover or to change, then what am I doing? Writing words on a paper with an empty heart isn't going to change me.
Yeah.
Or like making an amend and wanting to take it back. That was my question. I was like,
Full
I made
circle.
amends. And I was just like, but now I want to take it back. You know, because this person did it again. You know, but yeah, I realized that no, I'm
Okay,
not
now,
supposed to.
my follow-up question with Maggie is that is there a time limit to doing these steps? Because like there's like a lot of old timers saying that oh you should do the steps within and all that stuff, and I hear that all the time, like do it this like get over the steps
Like a year? Is it a
fast.
year?
as
Diba?
fast as
No,
you
ma'am.
can.
No, ma'am, because it's a lifetime thing. You're going to be doing this lifetime
Forever.
now that you're sober. Yeah. So once it's like you don't stop like, oh, I did the 12, I'm done. No, ma'am. It's you continue to do your 10
Yeah.
No,
or
I mean what
11
I'm saying
and
is like the first time you do the first time you do the 1 to 12, is there a time limit? Like is there a time limit that's appropriate or like acceptable or like
it
how do I
depends on the person. The person
Right.
needs to be ready. So it's
So-
really it's customized to each person. It depends on where they're at, how ready they are.
It's your
Yeah.
race. I mean, the way that somebody phrased it to me, it's like, well, some people will want to impose,
yeah.
and I
they-
don't agree with, but I think the thing that I do agree with is it's a race between you and your next drink or death.
That's true.
Yes.
It's
Yes.
true.
I like that. I
No,
like that.
right? I can't give you but whatever. I could be drunk or dead tomorrow because I sat on this work.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. Yeah, that's amazing. Yeah.
Like
that-
for me as an addiction recovery coach, I'm supposed to meet my client where they're at. But as you guys are sponsors, when you've noticed that your sponsee is not doing the work, like, dude, it's been 6 months and you're still on step 4. Like, let's hurry this along. Like, can you
hey,
No,
hey,
hey, I wasn't talking about it.
That hit a little
No, but
close to
like-
10
home.
months to a step 4, and Maggie was patient By the way, he's my sponsor. To our
Oh, there you
the
go.
reveal.
I thought that
I
we
revealed
were
it
gonna
because I got
say
proud that she's my
anything.
sponsor, and she took the time to be with me. You know, and like, yeah, and she didn't rush me, and I was very thankful for that because like it was difficult doing step 4.
Yeah. So
That's
You gotta
that's not
sometimes
something
it,
I wish.
sometimes people
Yeah,
have to detox first. People have to
Right.
detox first, and they're not ready. Their mind's not clear to do a 4th. It's detox
Right.
first.
that's true. That is
Yeah,
very,
yeah.
very true.
Right. But then what is your
Yeah.
capacity also? I'll say that, Barbie, it's like with some people, I have been able to be with them for months when they were sitting on a certain step, not sitting on, like as they were working through a certain step. But then with others, I feel this voice within me that says, well, I think I'm meeting with this person every week and it's becoming free group, like free therapy now. And I need to make a change
Mm.
for both of us.
Yes. Yes.
Mm,
Yeah.
yeah. Like there's or maybe like they have to recognize on their own what's blocking them, what's keeping them, so.
Well,
I think just to wrap up, if the person already is done detoxing, it's really important to get to the 4th right away because
Mm.
the resentments and fears are toxic and they will make you drink again. The resentment.
That's true. And that's what
It's
Pirate Mike
poison.
was
It's
saying.
poison.
It's a
Poison.
matter of life and death already. So if you're postponing it,
Mhm.
then you're closer to death. That's what I'm thinking,
Yes.
So,
Yes.
mhm,
yeah.
mhm.
Oh. So thank you so much, Maggie. We learned so much from you today.
that's
We're so happy.
Thank you
Seriously,
also.
this podcast is not just for our listeners, but it's for us too. I always learn so much from each and every
100%.
episode, so much from all of you. So thank you. I love you guys, really.
Thank
So
you for
cheers
having
to
me.
that.
Cheers to that. Thank you so much,
Cheers
Maggie.
to
Love
that.
you all.
Thank
so
you.
much, Maggie.
Bye-bye,
Love you.
everyone. Love you guys.
This has been an episode of the Cocoa Recovery Podcast. If you would like to get in touch with our hosts or guests, please email us at cocorecoverypodcast@gmail.com. Thanks for listening.